actually a little bit nervous for this one.
Why so?
I don't know. I feel like I need to be doing something right now. It's Sunday, but I don't have much going on Sundays. I take Sundays off now. So it's 4:15 at 4:45 or about 4:40. I have to switch these cameras.
Okay.
Basically, we just kind of like roll into it. It's kind of like, dare I say, Joe Rogan. Do you watch Joe Rogan?
I listen, yeah.
You listen?
Every once in a while, yeah.
Who'd you listen to?
Gosh, it's been a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I could pull out a...
Elon Musk. He was on there. Mike Tyson. Travis Barker.
It's been too long.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, so I've been trying to like make a better intro. So I'm gonna like look into the camera and be like, this is my testimony. This is episode 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know what episode it is, but this is with Nick Prather.
Yeah.
Nick Prather was my boss. To some degree, a friend.
Sort of. To some degree.
I mean that term loosely. He wasn't really my boss for a while because I had another manager.
Yeah.
But then, like, you helped me quite a bit more than that. I don't know how honest I want to be. Though that boss was... Alright, he sucked. I liked you a whole lot better, and so I went to you for a lot of questions about copiers and whatnot.
Yeah.
And, yeah. I don't know if I can say the name or what. But anyway, do you remember the time, like the day, the place, the moment that we met?
I don't know if that's specific, no, but...
okay, you won't offend me if you don't, but I mean, like...
But there was actually some moving parts before that, so obviously your dad was employed with us. And so...
after me, though.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
After you. But he was employed by us in the sense that he was with a vendor, a preferred vendor.
Sure.
He worked through that vendor on our behalf. So he offered us training, he offered us consultation, wisdom, expertise, because he's been in the industry a long time.
Yeah.
So
now that we know how I got the job...
He did. You approached me and said, hey, Nick, I've got a son that's looking for employment. What do you think? And so we had a little bit of a preparatory discussion. Yeah. And he told me the pros and the cons, and the rest is history.
That's right. Okay, now I remember is the reason why you weren't my boss to begin with was because I couldn't be in Kansas.
Right.
Because
I'm the Kansas manager.
Yeah.
Or was.
Yeah, for a period of time. And that lawyer totally screwed up, but I wasn't able to drive in Kansas or whatever. Yeah. For whatever reason. And so then I was like kind of forced to work with another manager. Yeah. Well, not forced. Well, forced.
If you had your preference, it would have obviously been
you. Yeah. If I had my preference, it would probably have been you. Yeah. But then I worked for you for about 2 weeks. Right. And then you fired me.
Yeah, I would. My wife actually, once we figured out who you were, she's like, "Are you sure that you're not getting, ambushed by some angry employee that's, got several months of grievances that have built up and, finally got the 2 cents to put together to buy a gun." I said, hey, we're meeting at Oklahoma Joe's, so I'll at least have a good meal in my gut before that happens. So
that's so funny. You probably had to have a little bit of worry in you. I mean, like,
it's a kind of an uncomfortable dynamic. Being a manager, you have to be relatable. Yeah. And you have to motivate, and you have to know enough of their story to be able to motivate. So that means you get a little bit more than just professional. Like you get personal. Yeah. And so, it's not like you're trying to paint a picture of we're friends, but you obviously have to have enough invested in each other that you're motivated to not just serve yourself, but serve your manager in a way that is beneficial to you and to the company, and profit margins and everything in between. So
business.
Yeah. So.
But that would be like this is like, it wasn't until recently that I kind of realized that life is a whole lot longer than this year.
For sure.
Like, I think that was like my moving into maturity, is to say, okay, this time with Nick working at the copier place here is only part one to the whole entire. I mean, you could live for another 30, 40. I don't even know how old you're.
Careful.
I hope you will live for another 100 years. But if I'm living for another 200 years, we're going back biblically, like I'm Abraham or something. But there's like a part two to the whole entire deal. Is that sure. Now it's not like so much I'm your employee, you're the manager. Like it's anyway. So now we're here and we're talking. Do you believe in God?
Wow, that's out of the blue. Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely in love with God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were a pastor for 9 years.
Yeah.
What did that... I really don't know where to go after that. This is it. Let's wrap it up.
We're done.
Okay. No, I only knew that you were... but
I'll feed you the question.
Yeah, feed me the question.
The question is, how did you get from ministry to being a salesman?
Yeah.
That's what everybody asks, at least.
I kind of look past that. I'm more interested in like how'd you get that haircut, but.
Well, I joined a hipster church, so I had to fit in a little bit.
Have you always had that haircut? Did you have that haircut whenever you were a pastor?
Not at all. Not at all.
Okay. So how did you become a salesman from a pastor?
Yeah.
Or even how did you decide to become a pastor? Was that like a childhood thing where you were like?
No.
Some kids wanted to be lawyers, other kids wanted to be surgeons, and you just wanted to be a pastor.
Yeah. So I would consider myself a first generational Christian in the sense that, my parents...
Bottle that up for 1 second, because I'm so worried that I'm recording that on that new program and everything. What I want to actually do is record the audio on my phone, just so we have like a backup.
Not a problem.
And before you go into this, then it's like, and I'll totally edit this part out.
That's fine.
I'm not going to edit this part out. There's very little that ever gets edited out in these kind of sit downs.
Okay.
But I don't even know if you can. I guess I can just record video. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. Is I'm gonna record video, and I'm also gonna get another angle because we have video. Okay, that's a bad angle.
It's right at my nostrils.
I know. It'll be on your foot, on your shoe.
Cool.
Okay. Well, I can't because then. Okay.
Yeah.
So you decided.
Yeah. So, I had 1,000 things I wanted to be before a pastor came to mind. So my parents went to church on occasion. I don't recall any in-home instruction when it comes to faith. So that's why I kind of consider myself a first-generational Christian. We went for social reasons, I believe. It's kind of the Midwestern, we're good people philosophy. And so I had great, people in my life. I had great communities and congregations in my life prior to really diving in. So the strange dynamic, if you really want to go back in how I got here, late in high school, essentially, I had this girl that I was really interested in dating back to junior high, and she just disappeared. And she popped up one day working at Alco, this little discount.
Wait, did she also block you on Instagram, Facebook?
It didn't exist then. I'm too old for that. So she disappeared. Literally just, I didn't know where she went.
How long did you date her?
Well, that's coming. You have to.
Oh, okay.
You have to kind of give me some time. So, as the story developed...
That light. Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry.
It's all right. So as the story develops, we're high schoolers, and she's working at Alco Discount Store, which is like the only place of business in Medicine Lodge, Kansas. And I kept going back, trying to find the guts to ask this girl out. And so I finally did. And just kind of chased her for a couple of months. And as I did, she introduced me to her family. And her dad happened to be a Baptist preacher in town, even owned the Christian radio station in town. So through that relationship, they introduced me to Jesus in a different way, a much different way than what I'd experienced. It wasn't just a social gathering. It wasn't just we get together and sing songs, but it was like true.
It's like you read the Bible outside of church.
Yes, we talked about Scripture.
Yeah.
We talked about how this applies to life. Interactive discussion about the implications of Scripture sitting at a dinner room table. And so I more fell in love with her family than I did with her, honestly. And just felt, empowered, loved on, accepted. Through this relationship, she exposed me to a youth group in town. And so I started attending this youth group, which was kind of this offshoot, independent youth group of, a married couple that just loved Jesus and wanted to provide something that was independent of any creed or denomination.
Is it at a church or at their home?
In their home.
Okay.
In their home. So I was, at this point, still very, very much atheistic, maybe agnostic. I'm not, a combination of the two. Very skeptical. In those days, it was very academic. Really wanted to rely upon my own knowledge to build my identity, if that makes sense. And so, years later, both of individuals in this couple explained to me that I was very difficult to have in the group. I was always adversarial, bringing up the counterpoint to everything that they taught, just trying to, not necessarily question things for academia, but just to be a jerk. And so you're acting like
that, because you're pretty well explaining what I've.
I was just thinking you were agreeing with them, maybe.
Oh no. No, so it reminds me of what I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
So long story short, they just loved me until I had to ask why. I mean, I went through some really difficult things. Had 2 major knee surgeries, which derailed what I thought was a pretty promising sports career. And they just loved me through it. And eventually I cast off the girl that I was chasing, embraced the group instead, and really fell in love with Jesus. So, yeah. So that's how I got to my faith. That's my testimony. They placed on my heart, this couple and the group placed on my heart, that I had skill set that was often accompanying somebody who's in the pastor role. So you can speak, you're persuasive, you're highly extroverted, you're sociable. These are all things that align with being a pastor. And so I kind of like that accolade that came with that. And so my junior year, I just made the statement, I'm going to be a pastor. And so I even pastored a church when I was a junior in high school. One of my mentors passed away, and he was a pastor of this little country church. And so I led that church for a time. So, yeah, went into the ministry, went to Bible college and went into the ministry. And
where at?
As far as the church that I served in? Or?
No, the
college?
Yeah.
Barclay College is where I went, in Haviland, Kansas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, you said Barclay, and I was thinking Berkeley, and
No, Barclay.
Went to Berkeley to.
That would be better. That would be better.
To each their own, man. I don't know what kind of, but yeah.
Yeah, so 150 students, maybe.
Okay.
Maybe. played some baseball there, which was fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Wait, so I thought you said that you met your wife in high school.
Oh, I did.
Mm-hmm. She was a friend?
So she was part of that youth group.
Okay.
I mean, if you want to go back to the first date with the girl I was chasing, I had to bring a fifth person and another couple.
Yeah.
To be able to go on this date because the Baptist preachers... Courting and... Yeah. So I invited my best friend, who was dating a girl named Janelle. And we brought a girl named Anna with us to be the fifth wheel. And years later, my best friend ended up marrying Anna, and I ended up marrying Janelle.
So the girl that just
the
disappeared.
girl I invited got left out. Yeah, so crazy world we live in. But yeah, Janelle and I were best of friends in this youth group, and were friends quite a while before we decided to take the plunge and start dating.
Yeah, I remember you telling me a story about some chest.
Oh, yeah. So, my wife...
And that's all I remember, too, by the way, is like...
Yeah. So,
a chest.
Yeah, so my wife and I both worked very hard. We had jobs at a local grocery store, so we had the same job, got a little extra time in, and got to make money at the same time. But her 16th birthday was approaching, and I went on the search for a hope chest. She had mentioned at one point, I don't know when, that she wanted a hope chest, and that she wanted to put specific things in this hope chest and kind of build, her little collection of loved things.
A strand of Nick Prather's hair.
Yeah, right.
A shoe sole that she stole out of your...
Yeah. Those sort of things. So I bought one.
Give better examples of what she put in it.
Well, she's got yearbooks and things like that she put in there. She envisioned putting baby blankets and baby clothing and stuff in there. You have to understand, Janelle was an old soul. Even as a, preteen, she was I would call her the matriarch of her family. She was the pseudo mom. She took care of the little ones. She made sure that everybody was well taken care of with food and laundry and cleaning and things of that nature. And so, she was a mom before she had to be a mom. And so she had hopes and dreams of not career aspirations, but family aspirations. And it very much aligned with my, yearnings as well. So, when we were young, we talked, we were dating 2 weeks and we were talking about marriage and talking about starting a family. So I think that was my way of saying to her and to her family,
I'm serious.
I'm here long term.
Yeah. I'm
here long term. And I mean it. So I spent a lot of money. For a teenager in 1997, $900 is a lot of money.
On a hope chest?
On a hope chest. Yeah. So I didn't go cheap. Bought it at a furniture store in Pratt, Kansas, had it delivered, and I remember following the delivery truck into her driveway, and her mom was the only one home, and she looked at me like I was just an absolute fool.
Such a romantic man.
Yeah. So
yeah. I remember you told me that story as my manager, and I was like, what?
Yeah. So we were...
Because a soft spot.
We were 16 at the time, and yeah.
When did you guys get married?
So we got married in 1999. She had just completed high school. So she graduated in May and married me in August.
In 1999?
In 1999.
Was that for some particular reason, 1999? You were worried about the whole end of the world?
Y2K?
Yeah.
No.
Just a coincidence?
No. I was 1 year ahead of her in school. So I went off to college for a year, and she had to stay behind.
Do you guys write?
I'm a really bad long-distance relationship guy, and she'll attest to that. It was a miserable year for her. I was having a great time at college. I still loved her, but she felt a little neglected, I think. So, yeah, I think it was definitely a welcome surprise when I proposed, because I think
you proposed when you came back then?
Yeah, so it would have been March of '99. I proposed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would have proposed sooner, but I didn't have the cash to buy a ring yet, so I was working really hard to buy a nice ring.
Well, did you get a nice ring?
I did get her a nice ring. Yeah. Paid cash for most of it.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Speaking of cash, I remember also the time that you told me to... you were in the back of my head while I was purchasing my first car.
Oh, I bet. I'm a little opinionated.
The there. WRX or the Crosstrek, and the Crosstrek was more of the or the less of the horsepower and less of the dollar signs. But the WRX, man, that thing, I still want it.
I'm sorry I ruined that for you.
It's okay. Honestly, $100 more a month,
Well,
in my pocket. You can't beat that.
Yeah.
Maybe I should start saving up for a ring.
Yeah.
Gotta find a girl first. Know anyone?
I know lots of single ladies.
Do you?
I do. It's kind of a weird dynamic. Like, I recognize a lot of the youth kids that I...
not your age.
Discipled.
Not you.
I didn't decide. I didn't. My youth kids.
Got you.
My youth kids that I ministered for and with and discipled.
Okay.
When I was in youth ministry.
Not to say that like I wouldn't date up or anything, but I mean,
you're the one that sets those boundaries, not me.
Sure.
But yeah, a lot of my youth kids, for whatever reason, are single. So
there's a lot of single people in the church now.
Well, Gen Zs and millennials just have different standards for and expectations for marriage.
See, somebody told me that the other day, and I said, no, I would rather just go ahead and get married and let's go.
You want to hear my theory on it?
Are you for or against? Let me rephrase that. I want to hear your theory, but are you arranged marriages? What's your thoughts on that before you give me your theory?
Arranged marriages, like betrothal? Is that what we're referencing? Or?
No, I'm talking about like your mom and dad, they go, this is going to be the one that he marries.
That's betrothal.
I don't know what that
You'll
means.
have to hit the...
I didn't go to seminary. You got to understand.
I
have read the Bible, though.
I mean, if you look at like, there's the Moonies and their marriages, and it was just random. You go with him, here you just get married, and the success rate of those marriages is far superior than people picking their own.
Well, and the thing is that whenever I heard this a different perspective, and keep your theory in the back of your head.
Okay, I will.
But the idea of arranged marriage is not that far off. I mean, marriages are already to some degree arranged. Like, I've got a friend. You guys should go on a date, and they never go on a date, and then like go on a date, and then they go on a date, and then it goes from there, and they get married or whatever. That's arranged. That's an arrangement. I mean, that's.
Yeah.
However, it's a little bit more strict than the other religions where they say you have to marry this person. But your theory.
I mean, it's not that fleshed out, but I think Gen Zs and millennials both have had the advantage or disadvantage, however you see it, of instant gratification when it comes to anything that fits into the pleasure category.
Mm-hmm.
So, my upbringing is, if I wanted to watch a particular show, I had to show up at 11 o'clock every day during the summer to watch Price is Right.
You watched Price is Right.
And 12 o'clock was Chips. I knew this, right? But, I didn't have the ability to,
Hulu, Netflix.
Right.
YouTube.
Right. And I think...
YouTube.
I think the instant gratification aspects of being able to select your pleasure instantaneously has had a drastic effect on how people look at dating, courtship, relationships. I think they're channel flippers. I think they see maybe one or two things that are attractive, but then they also see two or three things that are unattractive, And rather than think through the ramifications of what it would mean to relate to that person on a long-term level, they just switch the channel.
Yeah, that's kind of why I like the YouTube community. The YouTube community is, it's changed, like how you say, like it comes out at that one time at the same thing with, so like this, I drop it every Sunday. I haven't gotten it down to a specific time, but there's also other vloggers that Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and they drop it on that specific day or specific time.
There's a rhythm.
Yeah, and so the people in the community, you're not getting, you can't watch it ahead of time because, well, that person hasn't edited in that amount of time.
Right.
They don't have a whole team or what have you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not just that people find the pleasure in these TV shows, but they're already done. They're already completed. They've already, like, people wait until they're on Netflix instead of watching them on television. So it's kind of like one of those things. It's outdated.
Yeah. Time.
Oh, that's right. Usually one of them clicks, but I'll reset them. I'm just trying to think of a way to how to transition it. Can you tell the story of the time that you met? You ever have a dog?
Yeah, I have 2 dogs right now.
Yeah. Yeah. How'd you meet your first dog? And say it in 1 minute.
I'm not a dog lover, so this isn't a good question. I have 2 dogs. I can't say that I enjoy them.
That's all you got on your dogs?
That's all I got, man.
Hopefully that doesn't turn it off. I'm gonna say it doesn't.
I mean, my wife had made a promise to our kids that once we moved to a bigger house with a yard and a fence, that we would get dogs, because the kids were just convinced that they wanted a dog, would love a dog. So off we went to a litter of puppies that we saw on Facebook. We came back with 2. And nobody cares for them except for 1 kid out of the 6. So.
All right, nobody cares about your dogs.
I mean, they're great dogs. They really are. We just, they crap on things, they pee on things, they throw up on things, they bark.
Do dogs go to heaven? There we go. Transition
made. We're getting deep.
I'll answer the question. No, they don't, because they don't have a soul.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, no problem.
I learned something today.
Why are you wearing a Broncos sweatshirt in Kansas City?
Yeah, my dad is a Colorado native.
Ah.
And so.
Is your dad a pastor?
No.
So you're wearing a PK?
No.
You know what a PK is?
Mm-hmm. Pastor's kid.
Yeah.
No. See, I said I was a first-generation Christian earlier. Short-term memory loss, it's a hard thing.
My long-term, though, is excellent. I mean, how did I remember that chest?
That's right. I was surprised you remember that story.
I should start saying hope chest. It's kind of, okay.
It is kind of weird.
Yeah.
It's all right.
Anyway, moving on. Relationship with your parents.
Ooh.
Yeah.
This is going to be public.
Oh.
That's all right. It's interesting. Like, I had a childhood that was completely void of trauma.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's almost the best way I can describe it.
Then it's okay that it's in the public. I mean,
my parents are good people.
Yeah.
They're great people. Through ministry, you get to hear people's stories, and it's hard not to be comparative in the sense of, like, you have a conversation with a cat that is struggling with, I don't know, depression, and you try to boil it down to its origin, and it may come down that his dad hit him with a wrench when he got mad and drunk. Or, he got sexually abused by, a family member. And it's really clear, the trajectory that caused. In my life, I would say that I had almost an equal amount of side expression, meaning I had a really, really difficult time with an addiction at one point in life. And do we need to address that? No, we're good? Okay.
Kinda, yeah. But
okay.
Could continue on with your addiction, and I will listen.
Yeah, so, in my case, with the addiction struggle, being comparative to other stories, I almost felt like I was the odd man out. Like, my story doesn't make sense. I didn't get beat. I didn't get abused. So then you start breaking that down and looking at it, and I think my parents were one step away from that dynamic. And so they each had some pretty significant trauma from their childhood, and in reaction to that, didn't provide that for my brother and I. But there were just some things that were absent. They weren't necessarily all that nurturing, and they're not what I would say like physically. I guess the word's nurturing. We didn't hug, we didn't kiss, we didn't snuggle, we didn't, those things that you show physical affection. Yeah. Didn't show physical affection.
I impressed myself there too.
Good job, man. A little Greek. But so when I go back and look at my history, I feel a little bit off-put by the fact that my story isn't nearly as egregious as somebody else's story.
Yeah.
So I would say there's distance. There's a disjointed nature to my relationship with my mom and my dad. We have a hard time, especially now that I've kind of matured in my faith and matured in my role as a father and a husband. I don't know that they've necessarily been able to witness that at a frequency that allows for them to, understand it.
Yeah.
It's almost like I've been away and I came back and I'm 5 inches taller and my voice has changed. In that sense, I kind of went off and did my thing as a husband and as a dad, and now it's kind of hard for them to measure what happened. Does that make sense?
A little bit.
Yeah. So there's not bad blood between my mom and my dad, but I definitely wouldn't call our relationship close.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I love them. I love them a lot. They did a lot for me.
They wiped your butt.
Well, beyond that, they provided me an environment that allowed for me to be empowered to do things that helped me advance in life.
Your son was a wrestler, is a wrestler. Were you a wrestler too?
No.
Did you do sports?
I did do sports. I was a baseball player primarily. Played some football. That's part of the good stories in life. With my mom, especially, she is in this college softball Hall of Fame. So she was a star athlete when she was younger, and so she was the one I played catch with and learned baseball from.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of fun to tell my peers, look at my mom throw. Check this out. Have her throw to you, and here they be shaking their glove hand. Oh man, that was hard. So there's a lot of good stories like that. A lot of good stories. I was a free range kid though too. My parents showed a lot of trust in me at a young age.
Did you ever get
off I went?
Did you get what did discipline look like? Did they put you in timeout, or did you ever get grounded?
Good question. I was a good kid. I really look back and think I was so easy from that standpoint of actual hurtful, disparaging behavior. There's not much of that in my life.
Yeah.
Was I sassy? Yeah. Did I have a mouth? Yeah. Was I, a little bit of a debater? Yeah. All those things are true. Obnoxious, yes. But like actually hurting others, hurting myself, hurting them, there's very little of that. Very little of that. So to answer your question, I can only recall one time that I was spanked, and the rest of the time it was just a look, and I usually corrected my behavior. They may describe it differently, but as I look back, I just can't even think of like those moments where I was just.
I mean, was there a paddle?
No.
I got the paddle.
I don't even think there's threat of it. I don't know that I would think that was ever on the table.
I got soap in my mouth.
Did you really?
Yeah, that's what they would do. Is that if we couldn't. Well, I didn't. It wasn't strict. Like, I mean, it was very rare.
Yeah.
But we couldn't say the word "but."
Now, is your family of faith?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Dad's Catholic, mom's Christian.
Oh, that's an
interesting. So I grew up Catholic.
Dynamic.
Yeah, and then became Christian.
Okay.
You can't blame me though. The youth group is like up here whenever it comes to
you don't have to do the catechism and memorize a bunch of junk.
Yeah.
You show up and eat candy and
soda. Oh, and play basketball
and dodgeball and yeah.
And like you can actually talk to the girls like at youth group, and it's like mind. But anyway, But I'd say butt or fart and just like. Whoa. I would never. Yeah. Oh yeah. Get soap in the mouth for it too.
Whoa.
I never really cursed like I said, but then I got into college and then all that went out.
I think the only thing that felt threatening is if I didn't get good grades.
Yeah.
I felt like that would have been the one thing that would put them over the top.
See, I got all right grades. I think what happened, I went through a period of time where I thought I needed ADD medicine.
Yeah. I've done that.
What is that called? Adderall.
So I did strattera.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
Do you still take it?
No. Interesting.
Good for you, because I took it and it made me just. Because what happened was I felt like I was taking. What's the word I'm looking for? I was being authoritative to some degree towards my doctor, because what I would do is I went in there and
this is what we're doing.
My leg was shaking. I remember I needed to get a leg shake going. Okay. Because before Adderall, everybody had Adderall, and you just had to ask your friend, "Can I get some Adderall? I got a test or whatever."
Sure.
But my leg would be. I walked into the doctor's office. I was like, I gotta have my leg shaken. So I had my leg shaken, and I had to also talk like I normally do, which was really easy. Talk quick. And then they gave me a prescription. Oh,
so you were playing it up a little bit, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Manipulative.
Yeah.
That's what.
Then they just gave it to me. I mean, I probably didn't have to. Honestly, nowadays you could just go in there and just be like, "Yeah, I have." In fact, I know you can do that because my buddy, he had no signs of ADD. I mean, he was the most relaxed, chill person, and they prescribed it to him. But then I kept going back in there, and I would say the dose isn't high enough, and that's all I had to say. And then they would, let's go ahead and knock it up. Okay. And I remember going in there probably 2 or 3 times, and they'd knocked up the dose, and it got to the point where it was like made me depressed and like just
yikes.
Yeah, it really messed with me, and it just. I remember working on a paper for legalization of marijuana. Funny enough, I voted just the other day to not legalize marijuana. Wow. So to see my shift in views on that.
Wow.
But anywho, I pretty much pushed it aside after that and just like. And then did it 2 other times. One time I learned like John Mayer song. You play guitar?
I don't. I wish I could, but I don't.
John Mayer, it sounds like when he plays, he's got 2 guitars, and I've always wanted to do that. And then the second time, I met one of a good friend who pulled me back into the church. Yeah, so...
Full circle.
Sure.
It's awesome. Well, my story with ADD medication was much more embarrassing. Mm-hmm. I was an adult serving in a church, and through a series of unfortunate events, I just blew it. Like, forgot to pick up kids after school that were my responsibility. Forgetting events that I had organized. Just weird stuff. And so we had a family physician in our congregation that was just like, here's the test. Why don't you take this and see what the results are? And so there was, an actual paper test you could take to see if you qualified. And I was on the far end of the spectrum. And he's like, there's no question, you need to medicate. Yeah. And so he had this list of medications, and I actually threw them at my mother-in-law and asked her, because she's a nurse practitioner, and she had prescribed that in the past. And she said, why don't you try strattera, and we're going to do some brain exercises, but we're actually going to do like very strategic activity that will help basically create new synapses in your brain. And so I've never been focused ever prior to this. Like, it was just half-finished projects and hobbies here and there that never ever developed. And so in this case, for 6 weeks, I put my mind, energy, soul, everything into this, activity list that she gave me. And then I didn't see or feel anything different, but my wife was like, you have changed. Mm-hmm. And so I got off the meds, and it stuck. I don't know. It's almost miraculous, honestly.
So it, to some degree, helped.
Oh, life-changing.
Yeah.
Life-altering. Yeah.
Because I remember you, whenever we... maybe not. Maybe that's what you were preaching to us, but I just kind of presumed that, 150 calls every single week.
To this day.
And then 50
you ask
emails
any of
or
my,
something.
You ask any of my professional peers today who is the most dedicated to a routine when it comes to prospecting, and they'll name me without question. And that's not me bragging. That's just, it's how different I am today.
That's funny, because if anybody were to ask any of my bosses about my, for about 2 weeks, I was good. I would pick up business cards like crazy off the walls of restaurants and put them in my pocket and take them into.
Which may have been why I gave you your pink slip.
No, I never did that. That first week that you were like, you have to get 150 cards or something, or 100 cards, I think. Yeah. That first week I did it, and then you told me I had to do it a second week.
Yeah. That's called consistency.
Sure.
And frequency. Yeah.
So now what I do, and I was about to go run and grab it, but I don't want to step out of the frame. I think I've exhausted my stepping out of the frame.
Hey man, it's all right.
Yeah.
It's all right.
Maybe I could take it, fast forward it. Actually, it doesn't matter. I keep a book now, and a little tiny notebook that I write down everything that I do that day. That has helped me like crazy, because what happens is that I look at it the next day, or even I don't even have to look at it the next day. It helps even more when I look at the next day.
Right.
Or the day previous, the next morning, and say, what did I do? What do I need to do? What did I not do from yesterday? And what do I have to transfer? And so what I'll do is I'll write down everything I need to do.
Yeah.
And then if I don't cross it off, then I got to write it down again on the next page.
Over. Yeah.
So
yeah,
that helped me. Do you read the Bible?
I'm not a good reader.
You listen?
Yeah. So I've got a regular practice. So our church has what's called Havrim.
Okay.
Haverim. So this is a group of people that regularly meet once a week, and we read scripture. We retell scripture from memory, And then we that just fell. And then we.
That's what happens when you get
crappy tape. It's all right.
It's overheated. I think have rum.
Yeah. Read the story. Retell the story. Reflect on the story. Have an application for the story, and then pray for each other and his or her application. So, yeah.
But like a daily routine, do you read it every day, or is that...
Not every day. No, to be honest with you. It's definitely something that I feel an urge to improve upon, but I've got an odd thing about me, and it's that I don't like to hear the same information more than once. And it's quirky to a level that's almost insane. I can't watch the same movie. I have a really difficult time listening to the same music. Like I'll go months without listening to music regularly just because the repetitive nature of it, I can't do.
You don't see because every time I've watched The Matrix or Lord of the Rings, like I get a different perspective of the movie. So you don't get that.
No. Yeah, it's really difficult for me to dive into something a second time.
Okay.
Yeah. And I don't know, I really can't identify what that brokenness is. I recognize it as brokenness, but yeah.
Yeah.
So going to scripture, because Bible college, that's you live, breathe, eat Bible. And
I couldn't do that
for 4 years. And
or maybe I can. But
it was a challenge. It was a challenge for me. I think there may be some pride mixed in. Like, I think my brain just thinks, hey, we've mastered this. Mm-hmm. Let's not talk about it anymore.
And do you read out of a specific version?
NASB has been a long-time favorite of mine. That's a Greek, Koine Greek, in Bible college.
Is the New Testament written in Greek, or is it ancient Greek?
Greek.
So it's
Koine Greek. It's street Greek.
Okay.
Yeah, street Greek.
I tried learning Hebrew, and then not halfway to learning Hebrew. I was probably about 0.01% into learning the alphabet.
Yeah. I used to be able to read biblical Greek.
Yeah. But I found out that it was ancient Greek, and then I was like, why am I learning
a dead language?
Why not learn a dead? Well, I was learning. I wanted to learn the Hebrew that the Old Testament was written in.
Right.
But now I'm all hyped up on this whole Greek thing. I'm hoping that Duolingo has that. But you used to read Greek?
Yeah.
So what are the 3 different versions of love?
Oh man, you're gonna quiz me.
Well, I know agape, phileo, and
Eros.
Yeah. Those are the 3, right?
Yeah.
Okay. What are the difference between the 3?
Why are you quizzing me?
It's not that I'm quizzing you. I'm actually genuinely want to know.
I know that phileo, is brotherly. Eros is romantic, and the other is just a communal love. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, a general love. Here's a weird thing, just so you understand my brain a little bit.
Okay.
You recall how second nature leasing structure of copiers was for me, yes? Like, everybody came to me to structure a deal at All Copy Products, yes?
Yes.
Yes, everybody, right? I couldn't do it today.
Really?
2 years removed. 2 years removed. No, not even 2 years. I'm sorry. A year and 3 months removed from that. And I don't know that I could sit down and structure a copy release for you. My brain, when it's done with the information, just throws it out.
Flushes the toilet.
Throws it out. So, I've got this 4-year degree that I accomplished in 3. Bible education that, honestly, day-to-day frequency, I would have to relearn most of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why don't you relearn it then?
Well, life changes in a lot of ways. That was my profession. So, I've always done things from the mindset of, if you're going to do it excellent. And so, I did dive in pretty deeply into apologetics and scripture. But now I'm in sales, and it's sad, really, as I look at it, because I need it for the sake of discipleship. But, being able to quote scripture like I used to be able to, and pull a reference from scripture like I used to be able to, is not as easy to me as it was 10 years ago. So, and it's because I've really dived deeply into sales, and I can talk about prospecting, and I can talk about multi-touch activity and things like that to a very deep level.
And I can attest.
Yeah. I mean, I'm absolutely enthralled with the idea of sales and what it means to create your own destiny. But I don't know. It's just it's something that it does cause me anxiety, honestly, that I can't keep multiple topics in my brain at one time.
Do you think that discipleship is like sales?
Oh, gosh. That's a good segue, because I bought some equipment like you have today. In fact, it's much
What'd you get?
lesser scale. I got some lapel mics.
Okay.
And just a simple tripod to set my camera up with a Bluetooth remote.
I wish you would have brought the lapel mics.
Well, I bought it on Amazon. It's
okay.
Not something I walked in the store for. We don't do that anymore these days.
Sure.
Right?
No.
Yeah. So, anyway, I truly believe that there is a very distinct connection between sales, i.e. business, and faith. And so discipleship, evangelism versus prospecting and sales, oh my gosh, there are so many connections.
Yeah.
And that's going to be the theme of what I do if I dive in.
Do you think that there is, to some degree, you're really walking a tightrope with demonic, angelic, kind of falling into one or, it can only really be one or the other category in manipulation versus persuasion?
I get what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, I use the word consultative. I think there's definitely salespeople out there that are manipulative, that have a formula that leads to several different opportunities to handle objections in a way that, reframes it and puts it into perspective. And ideally, they're getting them to buy something that they don't need or want.
Yeah.
I've never practiced that ever. I can recall probably more times in when I was selling cars where I talked myself out of a car deal because the candidate that walked through the door did not need my product.
Yeah.
I've got plenty of stories there.
Do you think that you do that to still feel
evangelical?
Sure.
Potentially. I mean,
or is it unconsciously, or is it conscious? Is I guess what I'm asking.
That's a good question. I think it is a direct relationship to my integrity, yes, and my connection with Christ.
Yeah.
I think I would feel horrible if I led somebody with some sort of formulaic process to a sale just for the sake of a sale. But
however, if your family needs the
money,
think
think about this though. Well, yeah, there is that dynamic. Think about it this way though. Your job as a salesperson is to introduce a real pain point or problem or issue in their life that they're blinded to. So every day as I'm prospecting, I am trying to discover something they've not yet discovered on their own. So for instance, I may walk into the door, talk to an owner, and I have discovered just by having my head on a swivel or doing a little bit of research online, Glassdoor or Indeed or whatever, and they've got 10 reviews online that suggest that they've got really poor benefits. 2 may say the opposite, and more than likely, they're the ones that manipulated that response. They asked somebody on staff to give something that placated and looked better than what, the rest suggest. I then walk in and I say, hey, it appears that you have poor benefits. And they may argue and say, no, we don't. Well, can I suggest through a couple other instances that I'm aware of, peers, industry competitors, whatever the case may be, here's a comparison. Which looks better? Well, theirs does. Right. So does that mean then you've got lesser benefits than your competitor? Yes. Does that cause you issues? Well, I don't know. Let me suggest it does. Okay, so that's someone who is completely blinded to their issues, right?
Yeah.
Did it take some forcefulness for me to suggest an alternative? The answer is a wholehearted yes. Was it painful for them? Yeah. And was it more than persuasion? You could even call it bullying sometimes, to suggest that what you have is lesser than what I have and can offer. However, when the product is delivered, implemented, the end result should be that they're in a better place. I think the same could be suggested of somebody who practices discipleship, evangelism, even is a proselytizer. Surely you can suggest in someone's life who is struggling with depravity that what they have today is less than what I have.
Yeah.
Is it painful for me to point that out? A wholehearted yes. Wholehearted yes. And so every day at work, I have an opportunity to let my life be an example of what they could have. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So it's far different. It's vastly different in the sense of what I used to do, which was stand in a pulpit and spend 30 minutes preaching.
Well, now you're kind of out in the field.
Now I'm in the field, so I'm a marketplace Christian. And it's taken me a while to kind of transition. But now, I have a much clearer understanding that I have an opportunity to share my story.
Yeah.
And so sharing my story is so much better than being the guy who walks in the room and says, oh, you're a Catholic? Well, I've got this, and this that I have learned through apologetics courses and reading certain books, and I'm going to debate you until you relent.
And life troll.
Who has ever put a checklist check mark on, oh, I saved that person and brought them to salvation through debating them until they, said uncle. I don't know of any story that was the end result. But even in my life, somebody loved me almost to a point that it was painful for them until I had to ask, what is the source of that love? And then I relented in saying, I want that because it's better than what I've got. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I think sales and evangelism are almost hand in hand.
Well, all I can think about is the movie Inception. You seen the movie Inception?
Yeah.
I thought about it like 2 days ago, and it kind of like brought back to like you are implanting an idea into somebody's head, and like how do you actually achieve that? Well, in sales, do you think that sales is easier than discipleship?
A lot. Yeah, a lot easier. The implications of not buying my product are far less than not buying God's.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of anxiety related to discipleship. I think that kind of got in the way sometimes when I was in ministry, where I would fall in love with somebody at a social level. I really love you and I'm invested in you, but they would choose a different path than what God has given us. And it would cause me an immense amount of anxiety, fear, guilt, regret. And I would almost kind of, circle down the drain and lose momentum because, somebody chose a different direction. Now I've got better perspective as an adult, a mature adult, that's God's work. Like, it's just my job to plant the seed. I can't find any scripture that suggests that I'm the one that has to do every step of the growth and maturity process. I'm wholeheartedly convinced that the guilt and shame cycles that all non-Christians seem to do this on and say, I don't want any part of that, is us directly stepping in God's stead and trying to step into places that aren't ours. It's not our job to convict. It's not our job to create guilt and shame. It's just our job to love. And I know that sounds hippie. If I had said that 12 years ago, I would have shot myself in the face. I mean, I can't believe that I've evolved to that point in my life, in my faith walk. But truly,
you're getting poetic.
It's not my job to debate somebody into the kingdom. It's not my job to be smarter than somebody. And yet, what do we do every Sunday? We sit and we study and we get smarter. I'm tired of smart Christians. I'm tired of it because we're not very loving. We're not very loving. Our first response is a conditioned response, just like salesmanship. Yeah. Where we sit in a room every Monday morning and we learn all these clever ways to overcome objections. Right?
Sure.
If they say this, this is what I say. And then if they say this, this is what I say. And if they say this, this is what I say. And I win. Right?
Yeah, sure.
Isn't that what Christianity became over a number of years? There's books after books after books that were written. Literally, point and counterpoint, point and counterpoint, point and counterpoint. And instead of getting converts, we got people throwing up. Throwing up. They're sick of it.
That's all I got whenever I went to Denver, Colorado. What are you supposed to say? Yeah. In sales, at least.
Right. I understand. I understood the connection.
Yeah. That's where I went to training.
I sent many people to train there as well.
Yes.
Yeah. But isn't it interesting that a good salesperson isn't the one that can do the point and counterpoint? It's the one that's empathetic. Yeah. It's the one that says, Mr. Owner, you don't have good benefits today. How does that affect you?
It was so...
And listens.
I've got a question for you, but I want to say that it's so crazy, the contrast between the Missouri and the Kansas manager.
I know.
It works. The thing is it can work.
It works enough to put the time into it.
Yeah.
But does it create long-lasting results?
Not only that, but it just feels, it doesn't, there's no, it's like drinking salt water. But I got a quick question for you. Have you ever, in the ministry, or maybe it might not be quick, but loved somebody so much that you wanted to give your, well, I guess it happened with Paul, I think, or somebody in the Bible, maybe you can help me out, but how have you ever gotten to the point where you wanted to give somebody your own faith, your own birthright, that you loved them so much that you were nearly willing to give them your faith? Does that make sense, what I say?
Yes and no. I mean, that actually can't happen where you give somebody your faith. But
take your place in heaven.
Oh.
That's...
I mean, that's a hard question. I've loved people sacrificially, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, very much so.
I guess it's the dividing line, because I the only reason I asked the question, I've experienced that.
Yeah.
So you want to love somebody so much that you would lay down your life for them, but you don't want to love somebody so much that you would you want to love somebody enough to lay down your life for them, for God.
Well,
but you don't want to love them so much that you would just lay down your life for them.
Yeah. So going full circle, I don't know that I ever answered the question of how did you get from ministry to sales?
Yeah.
I had a miserable experience, threefold, in taking a ministry and having it just blow up in my face. I mean, blow up in my face. And so there was a situation where I'm actively looking for the next ministry, hoping the next one will be better. And my wife putting her foot down and stating, we're never doing this again. Never.
I think it's that time.
Okay.
Oh, gosh.
Is this going to be just audio?
Maybe. audio and this is what happens when you buy Canon and a GoPro that's 5 years old. This is supposed to be the backup, but it fell. It's just out of battery for some reason. Oh my gosh. I'm about to just take out just zoom out on this one and
you could just put up a nice, background and have our voices on here.
Yeah. It's just a picture of us. No, it's
why not? Joe Rogan does it on occasion. Yeah, so
sales to ministry.
Yeah. So miserable experiences. I mean, just horrible. And wife put her foot down and said, we're not doing this ever again.
And being a pastor?
Yeah. Pursuing full-time ministry.
Yeah.
As a profession.
With the elders or with the politics or with the...
it just depends on which church we're talking about. I mean, I could spend 2 hours talking about what you would think is just absolute lies. Like I was just telling a story that crazy.
That you experienced.
Man. I mean, we just developed kind of a new friendship with a couple in Baldwin. And unfortunately, like our first get to know you dinner, I started kind of unfolding ministry because that's always the question. Anybody who's of faith and hears you were in ministry and you went to Bible college and then you're not, they assume the worst.
Mm-hmm.
They assume like you were, just found out or whatever. And in this case, it wasn't that. And so they can't bend their head around it because that's like the pinnacle of faith in most people's minds is you put your time, your energy into studying how to be a pastor. You were a pastor and now you're not. Now you're in sales. And usually they lack that filter. And so in this case... Which
is perfect in sales because then it's like...
Yeah.
Now you owe me.
I get the pity sale.
Yeah.
No. And they meant well.
Which I've seen
first. I mean, we just completely overwhelmed them in this first meeting, and then this week we had the second one 6 months later. And I said, it took you 6 months to pay off the therapist bills to recover from the first meeting, right?
Yeah.
And they laughed, but they did concede that the first dinner we did together was really difficult because we didn't know the church could be that bad.
Yeah.
Like you could write a book. So, without getting into those details, here I am with a Bible college degree, pastoral ministries with a Bible emphasis, literally is the name of my BA. And carrying this resume to professionals, asking them to give me a chance. What?
So when you were interviewing, they would go?
Yeah, so I got a flat no. I mean, I read Zig Ziglar. I had a 2 month severance package after my last ministry position. It was that bad. And I picked up Zig Ziglar after hearing from several of my mentors, sales. You can do sales. I had zero idea that I could be in sales. So I pick up the Zig Ziglar book. I read it from front to cover. Never done that in my life. Studied it to the point where I kept notes.
Except for the Bible, though, right?
Right. Created a book and just reminders of things that were good about sales. And he encouraged you to go sell something that you love. And I love Toyota. So went to Crown Toyota in Lawrence, asked for a job. They said no. Went back a second time. Hell no. And then I was like, I don't know what to do. So then I heard a rumor that Hendrick Chevrolet in Kansas City has this stellar training that makes you go through role play and get you in front of a group. And
it's the first place I went to buy a car.
Yeah, so they literally hire like 40 people.
Sure.
And then it's so difficult. The training is so difficult and so miserable that there's 5 left.
Yeah.
And I knew if I could be in that 5, you got this little certificate. And so I was in forensics. I had preached. So being in front of a group was like the easiest thing for me. Still is to this day. I love being in front of a group. Perform. And so it was the best week of my life. I was like, this is amazing. This is great. Sure. And kudos, high fives. I've never seen anybody as good as you. Here's your certificate. I grabbed their certificate, said, I'm not taking the job. And they're like, what? I said, I don't want to sell trucks. I don't want to sell Chevy. And they're like, what? And I'm like, I want to sell Toyota. I was that dedicated. Had a job offer and refused it.
Zig Ziglar said, sell what you love.
Sell what you love. And I did not love Chevy, and I did not love trucks. So off to Crown Toyota I go. And I walked in, I'm like, third time. Hendrick, right? You guys know this. Oh, yeah, it's great training. I just completed it. You did? Great. I got MVP of the class. Oh, awesome. You're hired. So third time was charm. And I got salesman of the month, my first month. And it was just like duck to water. Like,
boom.
And I fell in love.
Mic drop.
Fell in love with sales. Just, I love teaching it. I love practicing it. It's just fun. Almost as fun as being a pastor.
I think fun is a...
with controlled variables, though. The drama that I experience in sales is my own fault.
You and I both.
For the most part. So that's my...
Rewarding is what I think it is.
It's fantastic.
It's just, you get what you put into it.
Yes. That much is formulaic. What you put into sales, you get out.
What was it like whenever you, I guess your relationship with God, how did that switch whenever you got into sales?
I gave up on him. So the question that, you go back to is, Nick, you're not in ministry anymore. Mm-hmm. Like all of my college peers, high school peers, even, the congregants that, were part of my ministry. Like, why are you in ministry anymore? My common response was, I'm desperately in love with Jesus, but I hate his bride.
The church.
Does that make sense? Yeah. The church. Hated it. Mm-hmm. Hated it. So I didn't want to...
Did you go to church then while you were in that first year of sales?
Not faithfully, no.
Yeah.
No. And my wife drugged me back.
Good wife.
The crazy thing is then we got into another church scenario that was absolutely miserable outside of ministry, and it hurt my wife this time. So she was the one who gave up on church.
Oh.
I heard out of the blue in prayer God say, go find joy. Go find joy. So then I told Janelle, I said, we gotta get back up on our feet. We gotta go shop. And she's like, I don't want to. I don't want to.
Is this before kids?
No, we had 5 kids at this thing. And she was pregnant. 5 kids and pregnant. And I was like, babe, we got to go find a church. We got to go find joy. God told me, we got to go find joy. So she relented, and we went from church to church to church. And we walked in at Greenhouse Church in Lawrence, and I felt it instantaneously. I was just like, this is it. It's a place of joy. So the day we walked in, my wife was due with our 6th. I'm sorry, no, I'm lying to you. Our 5th. We had 4 kids expecting our 5th. Sorry.
And 2 dogs.
Not yet. So here we are. She's round, and we just asked for a one-on-one with the pastor and made it very, very clear that we were a broken family with a lot of baggage, and we hated pastors, and we hated church. And they're like, great, let's disciple you. I mean, the perspective...
Did you just straight up tell them that?
Oh, yeah. I can recall the place that I had that conversation with the pastor. He came to my place of work and was like, hey, brother, let's talk. And so I sat down, and I was just like, hey, I'm going to be the hardest member in your congregation. Like, I have 0 faith in the church, 0 faith in pastors. Here's my story. And he's just like, man, I don't even know that I believe that. Like, I've never had those experiences before.
I'm pretty sure that's exactly what I did when I first came to this church.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure he didn't believe me, but...
And so he's been faithful, and the church has been faithful to every single word. Like, it's just not been an issue.
Can I go ahead and follow up and say that this church has been that as well?
That's awesome.
After saying
Isn't that
my
crazy?
pastor didn't believe me.
Isn't that crazy? So, like, they have healed me of all the wounding that I carried when it came to just the body of Christ, the bride. And I'm thankful for that. Because, you know...
Do you still go there?
Oh, yeah. Do
you live in Lawrence?
We hit year 5. We live in Baldwin, just outside of Lawrence.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's been a huge blessing. It's truly the first time I ever really said it and believed it, that I could grow old with this church and its people. Like, I can see myself being an elder, and not just by age, but in the true form and fashion of what an elder should be in this church. That's what I endeavor. That's what I strive for, is being a true elder.
Where does it talk about elders in the Bible?
Oh man, everywhere. Like 1 Timothy talks about eldership quite a bit, if I'm quoting that right. And, you know, it just talks about, I mean, this is Nickism, but an elder creates belonging. If you think about it, the mature people in your congregation should be the ones that are steering people the right direction. One, creating belonging in the community. This is your role. This is your space. This is who you are. This is your identity. This is where your strengths are. This is your giftings. This is the tool set that I want to place in you, because you have the soil for which to be sown. And I'm just like, I know it's weird, but like, I'm heartbroken anytime I watch something like American Idol and somebody steps up there and they sing off key. And I just ask the question, like, how did they get here? How did they believe all this time, practice, rehearsal, memorization, and get up on a stage and they deliver that product? Who sowed that in them? They don't have it. They lack an elder. They lack somebody who is mature enough to deliver a hard but gentle message of, this is who you are. This is what God has made you to be. I didn't have that in my life. Honestly, I have some regrets even going into ministry, because I don't necessarily believe that that's what God targeted for me. I think people sowed good things into me, saying, hey, these are things that you're good at, but didn't necessarily put me on the right track. And I could be wrong on that. I don't know. But nevertheless, I think that's the true role of an elder, is to give somebody the right direction. And people lack that. How many people graduate high school and have no idea what they need to be or want to be? How many people are 25 and still don't know that? 35, 40.
Okay, I'm not 35 or 40, but I just...
But you can sense that, right?
Yeah.
That you're aimless, directionless, not you specifically. Just people who struggle with that. And I really, truly believe they've never been in a community that adopted eldership. I want to correct that. That's probably my biggest passion in life, is creating that space.
So that's why, and I'm totally we're gonna go ahead and we're just, what?
Wrap it?
No,
Okay.
But so we met at Oklahoma Joe's a week ago, and I told you a couple pieces of equipment. You told me the lab mic, and then what else did you get?
I got the mic and the stand.
The mic and the stand.
Yeah.
Okay. So that plugs into your phone? Okay. And then you just have to find lights around your home.
Which I've got space at my work to do that, so I'm...
Perfect.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm trying to plug here, is that you... Is it recording? Is it?
I don't know. Yeah. Maybe. Hi.
This is just lame little camera over here for those watching or those listening, and it just has this... It looks like a little black hood is on it. And it's a little GoPro Hero 4, and it's just been recording Nick.
Hi.
I think... Yeah. I think that's going to be in the shot, but...
Yeah. It's all right. You tried really hard to set this up well. And we've just experienced a lot of technical difficulties.
This is still recording, okay? And this one's still recording.
Good.
See.
And you may have just some space that we have to put in a Bob Ross painting in the background with our voices overlap.
The thing, okay, so it's that one was recording, that one wasn't recording. Okay. So I have like some options here, whether or not I just want it on me while you're talking.
You're the much better looking of the two, so.
Thank you. Or we put the Bob Ross painting up, or what I do is, because I don't want nothing, so it's like
you could have like a potato in my place, with its mouth moving. That would be cute. I don't know. There's got to be an app, right? I'm not savvy.
Oh yeah, iPhone came out with that new deal. I want to make sure that this is in focus. I don't know why I stepped out of it and it just didn't.
But yeah, they advertise the heck out of that, like at the Super Bowl, where they've got the little
the iPhone,
emoji faces. Do one of those.
Perfect.
Yeah, that'd be good.
So you're gonna be. I don't know why I started that off as if I was being recorded by cameras. Hold on, I gotta just.
Well, you were going to talk about something at Oklahoma Joe's that developed.
No, yeah. That we were talking about how you wanted to start a podcast you wanted to do something in this general. And it was crazy that I reached out to you.
Yeah, it is.
Then you go out after me telling you, and very few people actually take my Matt, if you're watching. Thanks for buying a G7. There's another guy that I told him you got to get a G7. He goes out and buys a Fuji, which Fuji's a great camera, whatever, but. You actually took my input and said, I get the lab mic, get the so you get the lab mic, and then you also got a for the phone? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
So you can pick up a little bit of ambient, too?
Yeah.
You should record it at home with your kids and stuff in the background, screaming and crying.
That would be not good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. But what are you gonna talk about on this?
I alluded to it a little bit earlier, but I really do think that my platform will probably be LinkedIn. And it is to create a brand. I mean, selfishly speaking, I'd like for people to know about me. And I expressed in our meeting at Oklahoma Joe's, I'm really good at gaining access. I'll give a little bit of snippet, like even of maybe the first episode. So years and years ago, my wife and I were dating. We were part of this youth group. A big band in that day, a big Christian band, was Newsboys. And so they had a song called Breakfast in Hell. And I mean, the basics of the song is to illustrate that hell's not going to be this fun place. They don't serve breakfast in hell. And then the play on words in the rhyme is Captain Crunch is waving farewell as the end of the chorus. Well, again, going back to what we referenced earlier, my wife and I worked in a grocery store, and I'm facing, which is one of your tasks, meaning you're pulling product forward that's been purchased and make it look nice and neat. And I'm in the cereal aisle, and here's Captain Crunch. I've got this concert that I'm going to in a week, and I'm like, maybe I buy Captain Crunch and I bring it to the concert. And I didn't have the greatest ticket, so I'm thinking, maybe this will give me some access that I wouldn't have before, right? So reward me for my creativity. Look how smart I am. And so we bring it, and, here in the back of the audience, and, we're holding our Captain Crunch in the air. They do their full set, off they go, but they didn't do Breakfast in Hell. And I'm like, oh man, that's so disappointing. And so there's this encore, and out they come, and their encore song is Breakfast in Hell. Kid you not. Everybody had seen it, acknowledged that it was clever in the audience, and they're like, hey, these guys have Captain Crunch. And so the waters just parted. And here Janelle and I walk up with our Captain Crunch boxes. As planned, we get the access that we're looking for. And we go front center stage, and we're just into it. We're sweaty mess, we're in the mosh pit, blah, blah, blah. And Peter Furler grabs the box of Captain Crunch, opens it up, tears open the bag, throws it over the audience. We're all just, making it rain with Captain Crunch. And, it's this total blast. And so after the concert, we just kind of hung out, just soaking it all in. Everybody's like, "Oh, that's so awesome. I've got my pockets full of this Captain Crunch. You rock." And then all of a sudden, one of the stagehands calls us over and says, "Hey, the band wants to meet you." And so backstage we go, and we get to meet the band, and we got our Bibles, of course, signed. And, it's just surreal experience. And so...
Do you still have that Bible signed by News?
I do.
Is it in the hope chest?
No. Good question, though. No, but, it's just this moment of, we gained access through a clever, informed, prospecting way of getting access.
Yeah.
How easy is it to apply that to business?
Yeah.
Salespeople quit picking up the phone and saying, "Hey, this is Nick Prather from ADP, Total Source. Wouldn't you like to have better benefits?" Who cares, right? Who cares? Be clever.
See, I tried telling my dad. He said, "I can't get through this one." I said, "Dad, it's easy. All you got to do to get through is say that this is Jim and I'm looking to, or Steve, or whatever name you want to give, and I'm looking to, when are we gonna want to go on a fishing trip again? That last fishing trip was great. When are we gonna go on this?" Just keep on calling and leaving a message about a fishing trip. That when is this thing gonna happen? The first one was great, and the guy's gonna get all these messages and go, "Who the heck is this guy calling me?"
Which is my exact experience when you called me about this. I'm like, "Who the hell is this? I don't know who this is."
Because I for those listening, I left him like a 3-minute long message. And
really cryptic.
Very cryptic, and didn't never say my name, I guess.
Nope.
Said that he was kind, though, and what else did I say?
Yeah, that we were really good friends. And I was feeling horrible that I didn't remember this really good friend's name that I clearly abandoned at some point in life. And couldn't come up with a name, didn't recognize the voice. I'm feeling horrible. But, it was just Sam.
It was just... Yeah.
It's just Sam.
Gosh.
Yeah.
So that's going to be like the first little story. And
yeah, so, that's kind of what I have on the plate is just making spiritual connections, life stories to sales. I think I've always been a salesperson.
Sure.
I think from a young age, I can think
of... What was
the
first thing you sold?
That's a great question. I was feeling really crappy about my circumstances in life. I did not have a bike. My peers did. And came to my parents and asked them, "Hey, how do I get a bike?" And my mom's like, "You've been reading those comic books, and on the back there it has Olympia Sales. And Olympia Sales says if you sell a certain amount of items, then you get a bike. Why don't you go do that?" And I just gave life a big double finger and was like, "All right, I'll just go out and sell this." And so I wrote to Olympia Sales Club and asked for a packet, and I think I had to throw in $2.95 for shipping. It shows you how old I am. And in comes this box, this little kit. And I open this kit, and it's like, "Welcome to Olympia Sales." And tells you step by step what you have to sell to get this bike. And the catalog was thick with opportunities, and you could get a boom box or a skateboard, whatever the 80s wanted to throw at you at the time. And there was a BMX bike that I really wanted bad. So I got my little walking shoes on and I walked down the street and knocked on doors at a very strategic time at 5:30 in the evening and knocked on doors by myself. And people let me into their house. I couldn't have been 10.
You could have gotten hurt.
I could have been killed. That would have been an absolute travesty. But yeah, people answered. I had my little spiel. Sold cards and stationery, and sold enough items day one to get my bike.
Just ignore the beeping.
Okay, I will ignore the beeping. Yeah, so in came a big box shipped to my house that contained a BMX bike that I had to recruit my dad's help to put together. But yeah, I was no longer the odd duck in the neighborhood. I had a damn bike, and I was proud of it because I earned it. So that started an addiction. Actually, I sold every rotation that they offered, and so it went from earning a boom box to a skateboard that I never used, and then I realized that some of these things were not so enthralling, and so I just started earning the cash option and started getting cash in my pocket. So yeah, all started with a subscription to Silver Surfer comic book series and Olympia sales. So yeah, that's the first thing I sold. Well, that's a lie.
Yeah, what was the actual first thing?
First thing, I can remember this. My dad brought home ball bearings because he worked in the oil field industry.
Oh, what?
Just
for
silver,
skateboards?
No, just silver ball bearings, like bigger bearings than you're thinking, bigger balls than what you're thinking.
Okay.
So these things
bigger
are like
balls.
Things are like this, like a ping pong ball, but just alloy.
Yeah.
And so I brought a couple of those home, or my dad brought them home, gave them to me as a toy, just a little trinket. We weren't the wealthiest of families. So I'm pretty excited about this whole thing. And long story short, my friends were jealous of that toy. And they're like, I want one of those. And I was like, hey, Dad, bring more ball bearings home. He's like, okay. So then I started selling ball bearings.
First thing Nick sold was balls.
Used up balls.
First aluminum balls.